Hello, welcome to Support Life, a program focusing on current social issues from a life-affirming perspective. I'm Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Robert Colquhoun. Hello, Robert.
Hi there.
Hi. You're the International Outreach Director of 40 Days for Life.
That's correct, yes. So I've been doing this role for 2 years now.
Wow, and you're from England?
That's right. I live in London, United Kingdom, with my wife and our 5-month-old baby.
Wow, and how did you get involved in this?
I first got involved with 40 Days for Life. I spent a year working with youth ministry in Canada, and I came across the 40 Days for Life campaign close to the Canadian Parliament outside the Morgentaler Abortion Centre in central Ottawa. And I was very, very struck by the campaign. Going back to the United Kingdom, I felt that God was calling me to start a local campaign in London. So I moved to London. I found a job there on the very first day, and we started our first campaign in September 2010. 7 campaigns later, we saw the local abortion centre close in London, largely thanks to the 40 Days for Life campaign that we were organising there.
It's amazing what 40 Days for Life have done. And what touched your heartstrings about the pro-life issue?
Well, abortion is the leading cause of death worldwide. We're seeing 42 million abortions a year. I was first inspired to really get passionate about the pro-life issue, listening to a talk by Lord Alton, David Alton, at university when I was about 21 years old. And that really woke me up to the gravity of the crisis of abortion that faces our world today. I realised not only the seriousness of the issue, that it was a question of are the unborn human and the sanctity of human life. Realising what an important issue it was in our world today really helped me to wake up to look for positive solutions to the crisis of abortion. And it wasn't until several years later that, coming across the 40 Days for Life campaign, that I realised that there was a tangible way to get people in the local community involved in pro-life issues. 40 Days for Life is a locally organised community initiative encouraging Christians to pray and fast for an end to abortion. And there are 3 components to our campaign. The first of which is prayer and fasting, recognising in the Gospels we read that some demons can only be challenged by prayer and fasting, encouraging Christians to pray and fast on a specific issue helps to bring spiritual transformation to our communities. The second part of our campaign is to have a peaceful, public and legal prayer vigil outside of an abortion centre in the local community for 12 hours a day for a 40-day time period. And the purpose of having that prayer vigil is to show that there is a love in the community that can help a woman in a crisis pregnancy choose life for her unborn child. We've seen amazing results, nearly 9,000 babies spared from abortion at the very last moment, thanks to the public witness of Christians who've gone out to publicly pray for an end to abortion. I'll come on to some of the results that we've seen through 40 Days for Life a little bit later, perhaps. But the third part we've seen is community outreach, and that's taking a positive and upbeat pro-life message to all parts of the community through media, through going door to door, through encountering the public, and promoting a culture of life in any way possible.
That's incredible. It's a lot of work but effective. The law in Australia is said to be one of the most liberal laws on abortion, with women being able to abort right until only a few hours before the birth of the baby. Some people say before the head comes out, and also that the medical staff cannot go against their conscience, and they have to participate. And if they don't, they can lose their jobs. What is it like, the law around the world?
Well, in the United Kingdom, abortion is partially decriminalised, and since 1967. The law was amended in 1990. Some pro-lifers tried to change the law, and that challenge backfired spectacularly in a very bad way. The result was that the abortion was reduced from having interpreted as having a limit from 28 weeks to 24 weeks. The limit was declined, but abortion on grounds of disability was allowed up to birth. In reality, culturally, we have abortion on demand in the United Kingdom. We see 200,000 abortions every single year. In the United States, since the Roe versus Wade decision in 1973, which legalized abortion in all of the states in the United States, abortion is legal in many states up to all 9 months of pregnancy. We've seen many local pro-life laws in the United States introduced recently, and some states like North Dakota have introduced more restrictive abortion laws. However, there are still abortion centres in every single state, and I believe here in Australia that we very much have abortion on demand. The approach for 40 Days for Life is that abortion doesn't happen in the Parliament, it doesn't happen in the law courts, it doesn't happen in schools, it happens in the local community. And when the local community responds to the crisis of abortion, we see abortion will end when the local community says that abortion will end. And that's why we go to pray outside the abortion centres where abortion is happening in the local community. That's why we have so many stories of hearts and minds changed on this issue, that we go to where the crisis is happening and try to respond to that crisis locally rather than being involved in politics. We believe that through getting people involved through community activism, that's how we can change hearts and minds in society.
Yeah, prayer is your main focus.
That's right. With prayer, we can move mountains, and we really see a spiritual transformation through prayer as well. That's been why we've seen the results that we have through our campaign. It's been conducted in over 24 countries around the world. We've seen over 500 cities organise a 40 Days for Life campaign. I've mentioned nearly 9,000 lives spared from abortion. We've seen over 60 abortion centres close following a campaign. We've also seen 101 abortion workers leave their work and find other meaningful employments, even have conversions as well at the same time. So God is really working powerfully through our campaign. I'm very confident of that. I've seen firsthand in London how incredible things have happened, how hearts and minds have changed on the issue, and that we've really engaged the public where they're at on the issue.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you more questions on spiritual transformation, but we need to go for a break now.
Thank you.
You've been watching Support Life, and we'll be back after the break. Hello, welcome back to Support Life. I'm Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Robert Colquhoun. Hi, Robert. Welcome back. You were talking about spiritual transformation. Is this of the abortionists, or is this of the mothers, or is this of the helpers, the people outside the abortion clinic?
That's a great question. Well, the mission and purpose of our work is to save lives, to inspire hearts and minds, and to impact eternal souls as well. And somebody once asked Mother Teresa, what are you going to do? End poverty? And her response was one person at a time. So being in a very public place, there's very much a lot of public encounters. Many people are very willing to come and speak to the prayer volunteers that we have in different campaigns. And I believe it's really one person at a time. We would love to see the transformation completely from a culture of death into a culture of life, where no more babies will die from abortion and no more women will be wounded or cry from the pain and hurt of abortion as well. Recognise that that is a huge goal, and it's not something that is achievable overnight, but by encountering people where they are and recognising pastorally their needs, whether they are post-abortive, we've helped people lead them into post-abortive proven healing programs, which has seen mercy, forgiveness and healing, that they've encountered that in their own lives and helped to move on from the pain of abortion.
What about the violence that we sometimes see in front of abortion clinics? Do you see any spiritual transformation?
Well, with certainly in the United States, there have been cases of violence which has been associated with pro-life groups. And our campaign, the criteria is that you organise a peaceful, a prayerful and a legal campaign, that it has to fit within those parameters. In the United States, 8 abortionists have been shot over the last 30 years. I think that's been a very much an own goal for the pro-life movement, trying to promote the idea of the right to life whilst having violence is really totally unacceptable from any perspective. Of course, abortion is an act of violence which ends the life of a human being, but I don't believe that in any case that violence of any form whatsoever could be justified. And I think it's very, very unproductive for the pro-life movement to do anything outside of a peaceful ethos.
Have you seen any spiritual transformation in the abortionists?
Very much so. I mentioned we've seen over 100 abortion workers leave their roles, find other work. The most famous of which was a lady called Abby Johnson, who was a Planned Parenthood, the largest abortion provider in America, Employee of the Year. And we organised 6 40 Days for Life campaigns outside her abortion centre in Texas. And she once, one day, witnessed an abortion, an ultrasound-guided abortion on an 8-week-old young boy. And she saw firsthand that young unborn child fight for its life inside its mother's womb. As a result of that experience, she immediately knew that she had to get out of the abortion industry and leave for good. But thanks to the faithful witness of Christians who had been campaigning for years and praying peacefully outside, she knew that there was one place that she was able to go in order to find help and to find a way out of the abortion industry. She went across to the local pro-life organisation across the street. She is now a well-known pro-life advocate, helping others in the abortion industry to leave their roles if that's what they want to do. She's now helped over 100 people in a similar situation to her, abortion workers, leave their roles and find other meaningful work. So it's amazing to really encounter abortion workers. That we really don't consider them the enemy, but brothers and sisters in Christ. And many of them do have a change of heart and mind. Many of them don't want to work there, but feel either coerced or feel that they need to provide for their families or to earn money. And many of them don't want to work in that role. So we have seen wonderful changes of hearts and minds from abortion workers as well.
Have you seen the partners of the women and have a transformation, or the women themselves?
Very much so. Well, it was on the second day of our first campaign that we organised in London. It was outside the Mary Stopes Centre in central London, and there was a young couple that came to the abortion centre. The boyfriend had brought along 2 of their other children who had already been born. And Mary Stopes has a rule in London saying that you're not allowed your born children inside the abortion centre. So he had to wait outside with the 2 children, and he spoke to some of our prayer volunteers that day. And after speaking with them for several minutes, he rushed into Mary Stopes and he got his girlfriend, and they left never to come back again. We do witness many partners as well who are really struggling and going through a lot of grief and a lot of nerves and apprehension, and simply to be there for these people. I've heard a story yesterday here in Melbourne of a 17-year-old who came along with his partner to the abortion centre, and through counselling and support they decided not to go ahead with the abortion on that particular day, and certainly be continuing to pray for them at this time as well.
Yeah, that's amazing, all these stories.
Mm-hmm.
And do you find that the abortionists can be very angry and sometimes fight, outside of, the abortionists, the doctors themselves? Can they attack also the prayers?
We've had a whole range of reactions to our campaign, from apathy and indifference to ridicule to persecution, the whole range of responses. Most interesting from abortionists themselves. Some of them aren't interested at all, completely ignore the actual campaign. Others have been very, very angry and upset at us being there. So Gandhi, the social reformer from India, once said, at first you're ignored, and then you're ridiculed, and then you're persecuted, and then you win after that. And where abortionists have been angry, Thomas Aquinas said the first reaction to truth is anger. It's been a very interesting response, having an angry response to a peaceful prayer vigil, and sometimes that God has been acting in the hearts of people when they have responded with anger. But because our campaign is for such a long period of time, that many of the abortionists realise that it is a peaceful, prayerful campaign, and after about 20 days or so, it really causes a lot of self-reflection among many of the abortionists, because it calls them to examine their own lives and what's going on. Seeing many faithful Christians pray for that amount of time outside the abortion centre, that it shows a witness to the importance of this issue as well.
Yeah, and that's powerful. That I like that thing you said, that anger comes after truth, because some people get scared when they proclaim the truth because of people's reaction. But that's great what Aquinas says. That's inspirational.
Yes, we do see many people are very angry on the issue, and I think many people have been wounded and are very hurt by the issue of abortion, and that's perhaps why there's an angry response in that regard.
On that note, we need to go for a break. You've been watching Support Life, and we'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm Geraldine Lee, and my guest is Robert Colquhoun. Welcome back, Robert.
Thanks very much.
How do you feel about people who say, isn't it unfair that this woman should keep her baby, especially if she's been raped?
That's a great question, and many people ask about abortion in cases of rape. In that situation, I think very much compassion and help has to go out to a woman who has been raped. That a terrible act of injustice has happened to that woman, and that she needs all the pastoral care, the attention, the counselling, all the support she can possibly get. Not to mention that the perpetrator should be punished and imprisoned if he is found or if he is known. That is an absolute priority. However, the logical argument of causing the death of the unborn child because of the action of the father of the child, for me, doesn't make logical sense in that regard, because it is a jump of logic. The real central question for pro-life issues is, are the unborn human? For if the unborn are human, then no act of violence towards the unborn can be justified. If the unborn are not human, that it should be an acceptable act. But we believe, as pro-lifers, that the unborn child is a unique and unrepeatable human being, and we can see that through the development of the heartbeat, a very early stage in pregnancy, the very much human characteristics that you can see through ultrasound today, the amazing technology that we have today to be able to see the unborn life develop in the womb of a mother. And of course, it's an absolute tragic situation for somebody to be raped, but we cannot make that jump of logic to justify abortion in those circumstances. The majority of women who have been raped, who have carried their babies to term, have not regretted that experience. A number of American speakers like Rebecca Kiesling, who herself she was conceived in rape, and that was her history. She speaks all around the world on this issue, and the central question is, what is the unborn child? For us, if it is human, then no situation can be justified in the taking of human life.
Yes, I have a good friend who was raped, and she chose to keep her baby, and she found that seeing her child was actually healing to her soul, and she would cry and feel forgiveness. Gradually she was able to forgive the person who raped her, and through having the baby and just seeing the beauty of the baby and the child growing up.
I've heard stories where women who've had an abortion following a rape said that the actual experience of abortion was worse than the experience of rape, and it simply makes the mother a mother of a dead unborn child. It doesn't bring a solution to the problem. I feel many people think that abortion will bring a solution to the problem of crisis pregnancy, when actually it really opens a can of worms, and we see that with the psychological, the physical and the spiritual consequences of abortion, causing a great deal of harm to both men and women. It doesn't bring a solution that people think it will bring. It simply adds further problems.
When do you all think that life begins?
Well, as a pro-lifer, I believe that life begins at conception, and that by treating life as sacred from that time, recognising God as the author of life and love, recognising that life begins in the womb. We can see amazing things through unborn children, that they are much more aware of, that you can see them move in the womb, you can see the heartbeat in the womb. They look like babies, that they are babies. And by recognising and respecting life in the womb, I think we live in a much happier society. Mother Teresa said the greatest destroyer of peace in today's world is abortion. And to help build a culture of life that recognises the importance of life in the womb and recognises the valuable role that mothers have in bringing children into the world, we will live in a much happier place.
Should mothers keep their disabled children? With the suffering they go through, how do you all feel about that?
That's right. With a lot of the tests that are available today, such as amniocentesis, it's becoming more and more obvious when a child is disabled. We're finding out earlier and earlier. In the United Kingdom, 93% of babies with Down syndrome are aborted before they come to term. And many people feel very upset when they discover that their child is likely to have a disability. Of course, the diagnosis is not 100% certain. I've heard stories of parents who've been told that they will have a disabled child when the baby has been born. That hasn't been the case. But I have heard stories from families who do have children with Downs, that they bring an enormous amount of joy and an enormous amount of happiness into the home as well, rather than being a burden, that they've taught them how to love in a much deeper way. So in the United Kingdom, we have abortion available up to birth on grounds of disability. But actually, I think that there's many graces that disabled children can bring as well.
And how do people who would like to get involved in 40 Days for Life, what do they do?
Well, if you're interested in getting involved in our campaign, it's an amazing campaign. We have a website, 40 Days for Life, 40daysforlife.com. Go along to the website. Maybe there is a community near you who is organising a campaign. Go along to the prayer vigil, get involved in the prayers, pray to God and discern how you might get involved in our movement, and you'll never be disappointed. God will reveal to you how to get involved if He's calling you to this movement.
Yes. That's been so inspirational, and it's been great having you as a guest. I wish you all the best, and God bless you with your tour and all that you do.
Thank you very much indeed.
You have been watching Support Life, and that's all for our program today. Join us again next week. Goodbye. God bless you.